we're talking about, property management and stuff, a lot of people do fix and flips.
Yep.
In the city, I've recently been touring a lot of properties in Humboldt Park, and I've seen a lot of these places that they haven't really done a full job. They've done like a partial job, and they're trying to sell it for, as much profit as possible.
Of course. I would too, right? Wouldn't you?
I would, yeah, but it's just personally as an investor, I wouldn't want to, buy one of those places because you'd have to do a lot of that finishing work. Only if you get it for a good price, I feel like, would it be worth it.
Everything comes down to price at the end, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, other option would be if you wanted to buy and hold, which I personally prefer over fix and flips. What's your perspective on that?
I think it's all on the deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I generally also lean towards buy and hold because real estate's long term, right? And
Right.
that graph, the famous graph over the last 85 years,
Yeah.
real estate's like 77, 7-1, and 5 of those were the Great Recession that was caused by real estate. But other than that, even in recessions, real estate goes up. So definitely that. But if you can get a really good fix and flip where, you buy and hold and you're making this much a month and then it adds up, over 10 years you make this much. But if you could flip it and make almost that much and do it right away, the power of money now is much better than, down the road
Right.
if you can do it. So it depends on the deal.
Depends, yeah. There's some opportunities out there.
I think we were kind of talking about, though, no matter whether it's a buy and hold or a fix and flip, the quality of finishes should be higher. Whereas I see a lot of these, like the typical lipstick
Yeah.
on a pig. I think if you pretend you're going to live there, right? And you don't have to do it like super to the nines, like everything, like shiplap and all that stuff on the sides. But like, if you have quartz countertops instead of like crappy laminate, or like having stainless appliances instead of white appliances. I'm just thinking of the kitchen you just showed me.
Yeah.
Having a dishwasher instead of not having a dishwasher. I mean, it's kind of standard now. Just like these types of things. Obviously, you can do it cheaper if you skip out on those things, but maybe you're saving like 10-15% of the price, but it's going to be 30 to 40% worse. And even worse than that, some people that's a deal breaker. Like if you're just trying to rent that unit, some people are like, oh, no dishwasher, not even interested, or they're not even going to call you.
So you kind of get the back end of that if you don't do a full job. If you do a full job on it, nice appliances, updated, everything, so it's not like out of ordinary or, too old, then you get a buyer that actually is going to be paying a good price for it, the right price for it, right? Which you want to get rather than someone that's going to try to buy it for much cheaper than. Maybe you won't even make much of a profit off of it by doing that as well, by not putting in enough effort, kind of thing. So it's just I would say, at least from my experience in the past, my family has done always a kind of like a really good comprehensive job on the project, making sure that they actually get like new appliances, new furnace, AC, all that too on top of that, so that when you get into the real estate contract, you're not having to get a new appliance in there at the last minute kind of thing just to make the deal happen. We make sure that we kind of have that already in place.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, for real estate, it's not like this shirt or this table where it's kind of like a commodity. And I guess real estate is kind of a commodity, but if you have a really nice piece of real estate, it only takes one buyer to get the price that you want. That'll pay maybe 30, 40, 50 grand more than if you just did the basic job, maybe even more than that, And it's funny you mentioned family, like my father, like he does rehab and stuff, always like the least amount possible, like the least. And I'm kind of the opposite. I've become more of a perfectionist, I want it to be like really nice. Like I said, if I'm going to live there, how would I want it to be? But that's also a little extreme too. You can kind of run up costs and things like that. So far I've been lucky because I can get like top end rents or top end price on the flip, but maybe one day that'll burn me. We'll see. But I feel like people will pay for quality.
I would agree, yeah. That's basically what I'm saying. Basically, you just have to know what you're doing, go in there, do a good job, and you don't have to overspend on it. Obviously, you want to get the best prices on everything, but you'll get someone, likely if you're in this spring market right now, that's going to be paying, ideal price for it. But depending on the market too, I feel like if you're in the fall market, you put a listing out, you might struggle because, the fall market, there's not as many buyers. It's mainly a seller's market typically because everyone wants to buy in the spring, right? In the summer. So that matters too.
Chicago real estate is definitely cyclical, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how the spring market has become even earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
Like I saw January, February this year was popping.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Yeah, it's going to be like that moving forward because, there's more people moving to Chicago, even though people are still moving out of, certain areas. But I feel like the values actually, I'm looking through how in some areas of the country they're expecting the values to go down. But in Illinois, they're still expecting them to go up a lot, probably mainly because of Chicago. Because, there's all these, things happening. There's tornadoes, there's hurricanes, all that. In the south, there's, wildfires in the west.
Yeah.
But then there's these big markets in the Midwest and the East, like New York and Chicago kind of thing, where those values are holding strong and they're still going up.
Yeah, man, there's also like that huge rubber band effect where everyone moved to like Texas, Florida, and then some of that was they can work from home, so they can move somewhere else, but now they have to come back to work. But even some other people, like I have a buddy that moved down to Florida 2-3 years ago, and I was just talking to him, and he was like, "Oh, I'm moving back to Chicago," and like people, for whatever reason, the media isn't crazy about Chicago. It's like over portray like violence and all this stuff, but like I'm born and raised in Chicago. Like I feel Chicago has gotten only like way safer than when I was a kid.
I think that's one of those reasons is because that keeps some people out of the city, investors wise, because they're afraid of that.
I think taxes keep people out of the city.
And
more
taxes
than
in
else.
Illinois are not ideal, and the prices overall for the values aren't as good as Texas or other states south
Well,
of here.
I think now that's kind of changed too, because those prices have like gone up so much.
Yeah, but now those have gone up, but those markets are expected to crash a little bit because certain reasons, right? Because the climate, because of the fact that the values went up so much, and now they're less valuable. But I think the city in Chicago, it's been a super strong market, especially in the north side. This area, even Bucktown, or north of there, has been the best market to get in probably the U.S. in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I call it like the Northwest Triangle of Chicago, from downtown going north, northwest, and you get that little triangle. Follow the blue line, go all the way up. Jeff Park now has kind of had a recent renaissance, and then everything in between, because first it was around here, like you said, like Wicker Park, and then you're going up. Then Logan just popped so much so fast, and then you're going Avondale, Albany Park, Humboldt Park, and then now it's Mayfair and Jefferson Park, Irving Park, Portage Park. Even though Portage Park isn't technically on the blue line, but it's not too far. Yeah, I feel like that's the biggest thing, because the blue line takes you to the two best places in Chicago, downtown and O'Hare, like the crown jewel of Chicago, and get the heck out of Chicago.
I'm just trying to think. There are some markets in the south side of the city, that I've seen the values go up a little bit. But
for sure,
that's like, I know Hyde Park, I know there's Bridgeport, but those areas, they typically, people think those are kind of risky areas, right? But
I wouldn't
might
say
be good
those
markets,
two, but like maybe the surrounding areas. Because Hyde Park and Bridgeport are definitely, like Hyde Park's got the University of Chicago anchor. Bridgeport, what is it, like half of the last 8 mayors have lived there, And I still remember like my experience in Bridgeport is like people just don't want to sell. They'll just, I'm going to live here until I literally got told this in my face, like giving out handwritten letters, trying to find inventory. Here's your letter back. Don't waste your paper. We're going to live here till we die. We're going to pass it on to our kids, and they're going to pass it on to their kids. Okay, sorry for trying.
It's like that, especially in these areas, I would say, north side areas right now. But Bridgeport, that's come up and coming. It's at the beginning, it's been more dangerous, recently, like 30 years ago. But now it's increasing in value. But same with, West Loop and, we didn't mention those areas. Humboldt Park, that's been an area that's been risky generally overall. each block is different, you know, but the values have been going, like people have been selling for much higher prices than they used to in the last even 5 years, that they've been selling for double what they bought it for, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a $500,000 building before, and now it's $500,000 condo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Humboldt Park, to your point, is very like location dependent. You're on the further east side, then you're like butting up against Wicker Park and like, you know, multi-million-dollar houses. But if you're farther west, and especially away from the park,
Yeah.
then that's, you know,
More risky.
yeah, the
I've heard
prices go down a
past
lot.
the train, that's where you get kind of risky, you know, past the what's it called? The train that goes through Humboldt Park.
The train that goes through Humboldt Park.
Yeah. That's where there's danger, but we checked out a couple of places over there. One we actually made an offer on, but looking at it, we saw that there was some crime that happened on like a couple blocks north and a couple blocks south of there in that last year. But we ended up getting under contract for that one in Portage Park, you know, close to where you're at, right?
Yeah.
With the investment. We should probably talk about that since we...
Yeah, Portage Park's legit, and I mean
We
the other
talked
thing,
about that already.
like the other location dependent thing, like Humboldt Park going on the north side, being close to the 606.
Yeah.
That helps. I was just on the 606 last night, and man, like you just see the quality of houses next to the 606 all along it, east to west. Doesn't matter. Like it's just elevated.
It's a couple blocks south of here, and you know, I used to go on that park once in a while, walk my dog and stuff. That used to be the train station in the neighborhood, but it used to go all the way out to the suburbs, maybe, or almost to the edge of the city, right? Now it's just like a park, and it's basically you got views of the whole neighborhood by walking on it. Like that's the first time they've done that in the city, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, the 606 is nice, man. It's really
But
nice.
yeah, but looking at the market, you know, for the last month and a half, we realized that Humboldt Park, there are opportunities, you know, where you can see the values have gone up, but it depends on what block you're on, and it depends on, you know, if anyone's going to want to rent your place, because that's the most important thing if you're an investor.
Yep.
We looked a little bit north of there, and we found something that it's in an area as well that's more safe, more parks, more schools and all that stuff, less risky basically on that side. And we feel like people that want to get a house, you know, that have probably been renting out condos or, you know, wherever in the city, they're going to want to get a bigger place, and that's probably where they're going to want to move. I had a friend personally recently who said he's moving out there to Portage Park. He's going to rent a place out and try to buy it eventually as well. And that's kind of, you know, a good market, I feel like.
For sure. I mean, one thing that shocked me last year, I rehabbed an apartment, and the guy coming to see it, I said, where are you right now? And he said, you know, Wicker Park. And I was like, really? Like, you're coming from there to here? Like, there's not all like the bars and restaurants and all that stuff over here like there is there. He's like, totally fine.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I said, like, where exactly? And it was like, same street of another building I manage. And yeah, it just blew my mind because it's totally different. But he's been there, and I think he said he wants to renew this year. And yeah, I mean, I think for him, he's getting more bang for his buck. Like, he's getting a 2-bedroom, like a good sized 2-bedroom for like the price of like a 1-bedroom, or not even, maybe even a studio.
Right.
And, you know, he's got a room, like bedroom, obviously, but then I see what he's did with his other room. Like, it's his office, but then he also has like a hobby, like, I don't know, gluing stuff. I don't know, like making stuff. It's kind of like a childhood thing, I guess. Like,
I would say
making figurines.
It's a good trade-off, you know, for people in their 20s, you know, that are renting places for high prices in these, you know, nice areas of the city, right? To move out to somewhere like that just west, you know, maybe Humboldt Park, Portage Park, Irving Park, you know, and you get more space, like more bang for your buck, basically. You get more bedrooms, you know, more square footage, probably maybe nicer appliances, more yard space. There's a lot of parks in the area. You know,
you got the big one, Portage Park.
There's like,
it
I've
has
seen
everything.
3
They made
parks
pickleball courts there.
Yeah, and I haven't even been there yet, but I want to check it out.
I mean, basically all the major streets there, and it's so much cheaper than going out like in Bucktown or Wicker Park or Logan.
Right.
Even,
So you got 2 basically main roads with a lot of restaurants and stores and all that, nightclubs even, and then, you know, you got the neighborhood right there, and you got tons of parks. So it's basically
On the six corners too.
Yeah, it's a good lifestyle you have. You want to have, the amenities you have here in Bucktown. You have so many restaurants, so many clubs, hotels and all that, and it's still kind of like a, small, town feel in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah, it's like the 80-20 rule. You're going to get most of what you'd get around here, Wicker Park,
Yeah.
Downtown, whatever. But you're going to have way less traffic. It's going to be cheaper.
Depends on what you want, lifestyle.
Yeah, if you're ready for that, like just more chill and like
Looking
a
to settle
lot
down.
of people work from home or they're hybrid work from home, like more square footage, more green space is more important
Yeah.
for them now.
So how many places are you doing out in Portage Park right now? I know that you're doing that one right now that you're going to hold. Did you do another fix and flip in there recently as well?
The one I did was Hermosa, which if you're like an investor looking for, like up and coming areas, I think Hermosa is really it.
I was looking at one over there. It was not a small lot. It was a half of a lot. And it had basically a garden unit as well that is not like legal, right? But this guy just got some cheap updates to it. It has a nice kitchen and all that. But the price was like $360. We offered $360. That someone got under contract with it because there was multiple offers. But now the listing agent just messaged me saying that their deal's basically fallen through. Do you want to make an offer? Do you want to get back on it? So
Well, that's a whole other conversation, right?
I'm thinking, it's got 3 beds, 2 baths on the main unit, and then it's all got like 1 bed and 1 bath in the garden unit.
In-law, okay.
There needs more work than this other place. It's lower price, and it's in Hermosa, but it's on a half lot. So it's like it's basically like it's
Half lot medians, it doesn't go to
you
the
normally
alley?
don't see that, right? So it's basically
Is the lot just small or does it?
coach house lot basically. If you took the coach house and you just made it into a lot, like cut the lot in half.
But is it sharing like that
Yep.
other, what would be that half with another property or is it just a small lot?
Yeah, so it's sharing the other half of the property with another unit or building.
Wow.
But
Geez, what'd you say, 360?
yeah, but it's
it
got
needs work?
a road right next to it. So it's not like you're, on like,
Oh, okay, so you're facing out,
Yeah.
like you're not blocked.
so you can see the road right there and,
Well, what road is
you
it?
just walk
Is it
right next to it.
Is it a big street or?
It's not a busy street. It's a side street, but it's in the middle of the neighborhood.
Okay.
And it's next to a school. You can see the school from there.
Still, man, 360 for a half lot, that's crazy.
And also, I would rather have a full lot with, the same thing, a garden unit, a full unit on top, and it's all updated and stuff,
I think
What
this
would you
is
say?
where I'm seeing like there's going to be big opportunities for people. That saying like buyers have no imagination. I've got so much imagination. Like I could look at this space right now and just picture where I would like kitchen, bathroom, like just turn it into an apartment and rehab it like perfectly. For the people with imagination, like in Hermosa, like I know I was telling you earlier, like there was this guy I met like looking for a lost dog or whatever, but he wanted to sell his place, $275. Before I could even really get a chance, like the neighbor scooped it up. Brick, like it needed a lot of work too, right? But let's just say you put, I don't know, 125 into it. Like you could do a lot of stuff for 125, and I don't even know if it needed that much. But let's say you put 125, you're 400 all in for like to the nines, like brick, in a good area.
That's a good
And
price.
It'd probably be worth
275.
like at least 5 something afterwards. So, like
See,
it meets the
that's
ARV
worth
rules.
it, yeah. But then if it's worth 500 after that, why not hold and wait another 20 years
I
and
would.
see it'll be worth 700
I
or
would.
800,000 maybe.
And it probably will, for sure, because that area is like, it's just coming up, man. It really is, and it's surprising. Like that area it was like right by the actual Hermosa Park, maybe like half a block away, and that area is surprisingly walkable. You can walk to 2 grocery stores, like Paisan's Pizza. You got Azteca. You got Melinda. Like so many restaurants. Like and just like because it's by Cicero, you're 5 minutes to like Starbucks,
Yeah.
Home Depot, blah, blah. Like everything you need is
Yeah, so
close
we
to
actually
there.
were making an offer on that one that I'm mentioning, right? And we wanted that one, even though it's on a small lot, right? And we knew it needed a little bit of work because, the floor, the guy just did a cheap job on the floor. He did as cheap a job as possible on the kitchen and all that. Now his deal fell through and is it worth it to, we're at the very end of our contract. We're supposed to close on the 28th, right? So I would say what we have currently is probably better.
From what you told me, because you said
Yeah.
it's a 30 by 125 lot, right?
Yeah, 30 by
So
125.
it's already a double lot, and it's an extra wide lot because normal lot's
And it's in
25.
Portage Park near stores. And
Portage Park is a good area too. Like if some could argue it's better,
I would say it is.
Yeah, most people would probably argue it's better. And then you show them the pictures, like it's done already. You don't need to do anything. So for an extra 120, but did they say, hey, come back in at 360, or are they saying come back in, like give us your highest and best again?
They're saying come back in at 360 if you want.
Okay. I mean, but like 120.
Do you want to see pictures of it?
Sure, but like you said, it needs work, right? The other one in Portage Park doesn't need work. It's not just the amount of money for the work, it's your time, it's your trouble, and then you're getting half the size of the lot. Big thing in Chicago is you can always build vertically, but you don't build more land. And it's getting harder and harder to get land. And even, I remember when I was a kid, like people having a backyard wasn't special. But now having like a legit backyard, of course, a lot of people have that like small piece of grass, but I'm talking about like a legit backyard. It's becoming more and more rare and harder to find.
I agree. Yeah.
So I've been a real estate agent 6 years ago, for 6 years. I got my license 6 years ago. And like I steadily, like I was, it's scary for me, like being W-2 employee, like before that, up until that point, to jump and just become a real estate agent where like you only kill what you eat. And, there's a lot of real estate agents, actually a few, but like a lot and a few, I guess, percentage-wise, that make good money, but there's a lot that don't. And like technically, as a real estate agent, you can make negative money if you don't sell any houses and you're paying your MLS dues, your brokerage, your your insurance, blah, 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 all this stuff. You're actually making, driving around, and if those deals don't close, all your gas, your time, blah, 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 and you're not guaranteed a cent, like some real estate agents could make negative money. So I was always afraid. But I like went and like really progressed. My second year got up and like just got more and more. Like 2023, I was top producer, and then like I just saved all my commission checks. And like last year, I bought my building, and it's 12 units. I had managed it before, so like like that owner was like unloading stuff, and I helped them sell some other properties. And then when it came time to this one, I was like, hey, like. I want this, like, and we negotiated something that was like fair for both parties. And, but, I inherited like a lot of work to do on that too, but.
So you split the deal?
Split the deal?
Or you just bought it from, it was a managing broker that you said?
No. Like, I did property management. So like, but then when they wanted to sell, I said, sell it to me.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So doing work on that, and then my business partner that I did, which we were saying like the other thing, last October, we got in Hermosa, like it was actually going to be, initially it was going to be a fix and flip. Then we were just like, maybe we just buy and hold, and then bought it, like got tenants in, and then it's just like, let's just flip it, and it worked out like. He saw what I was doing with my building, and like we did a thing. Like, I mean, he financed it, so he also got like the lion's share of the profits. So it was a really good deal for him, especially because I was very like boots on the ground and like watching over the contractors, and I couldn't believe like they always say it's like 20% over budget and like 20% over time. It was like way over budget and like way over time. And that's with me, like going there all the time, like every day, like, yo, let's go guys. And like, they would call off randomly, or we got to go to another job or blah, blah, blah. And, I just coordinate all these pieces and find other people to replace people that weren't doing their job
well. You were just
well.
paying them by day? Daily?
No, I paid by the job, but like the thing is.
You didn't like how that worked?
Bro, this is like a whole other conversation. So like when you pay by the job, right? Like you have to come up with the scope and like, like I thought I made it pretty clear, but like, any little thing that's not in there, they're going to be like, oh, this is extra, and then even if it's exactly how it is, but it's like, yo, I want to do this instead. This makes way more sense to make this change. Like putting the island here or knocking out this wall here, or blah blah blah. Oh, that's not in the scope. That's extra. And then there's the unexpected stuff too, like the tree roots getting under and like messing with the plumbing. So we got to cut down the tree.
That's what happened to this one we're on right now.
Yeah. So like, pay by the job. Like, all right, you have a fixed budget. I'm going to put quotation marks on there because at the aforementioned. Pay by day, which is what I'm doing right now with this apartment rehab I'm doing. I think it'll still probably work out a little bit cheaper than if I did buy the project. But the good thing is, I mean, like the bad thing, obviously they're like not going fast, like really not going fast. And it's sometimes like, come on, man. Like, and anyway, that's to be expected, right?
Have you ever done that stuff on your own?
I help out, like, because I want I want it done and I want it perfect. Like, when they paint stuff and like if there's like a little spot missing, they don't care. Like it's not theirs. Like they're gonna do.
You care more than they do.
For sure.
You own it in full. It's, yeah. That's what my dad used to do. Is he would do, with the contractors part of the work because he knew how to do it over time. He learned. And, I probably will end up doing that as well if I ever come across stuff like that. But, yeah, what would you say?
And you learn a lot, too. It's like, I remember when I was in high school, like, I wanted to learn how to do an oil change. And then I was in high school. Like, I thought it was cool to do my own oil changes,
Right.
All I know change the tire myself.
Is when you own it, it's yours. It's way more important than, it's like at least 3 times more important than the person who's just getting paid to do it. You know what I mean?
The problem is, like, after my experience on the flip, and I'm like, now I think I actually cared more on the flip than now I'm just kind of like, like, oh man, I feel like it's people like that have kids. Like you see them when they have their first kid, like, oh my baby, blah blah blah, and then like the third kid is like, okay, you can watch them, oh whatever, blah blah blah. I feel like real estate's almost like kids,
Pretty much.
Like you want to take care of it, but and then after a while, it's like, man, all right, I need to live my life too. So that's kind of the progression. I'm still definitely like perfectionist. And for example, I'll spend more. How about this? This is the biggest difference. Like if I was just like a true fix and flipper, like the cheapest, like right now, like a couple weeks ago, we did the tile. And I was at the tile shop, and it's like, all right, you can use this mortar. This mortar is the best. Like this is going to be the strongest. It'll last the longest. And this grout, it's not going to like fade in color, blah, blah, blah. It's like 4 or 5 times the price, But if you think about it, it's a few $100s more, but you're not going to have problems, and it's the best quality. When you're spending tens of thousands, what's an extra $500? I mean, if you're a true fix and flipper, hey, that's $500 I could save by using the cheapest materials. Me, I view it the other way, like it's if the labor is going to be the same, but you can spend good on the materials, like do that. Like it's going to be a fraction of the job cost, like 10%, but it's going to be like 30, 40% better, 50% better. I see like just what you showed me, that's like a true, like it was a good flip, right? But there were some things like the shower, I would put like a frameless shower door, the vanity, they're nice, they're new, but the counter space is small. I would put like a bigger counter space, a vanity, and a quartz countertop, so it's more durable. Because some of those other ones, they crack or they scratch and things like that. The mirror, I mean, this is like a personal taste, but I feel like you got to have the medicine cabinets so you have more storage there. Biggest thing for tenants, and even for you in your own life, right? Like if you have tons of things on the countertop and no other place to store it, like, and then you see another place that has it, like, like I want people to live there forever, and I want them to like, you know what, my lease is coming up in 3 months, I'm gonna go look at some other places, and then thinking in the back of their head, where am I gonna put this? Oh, this looks kind of janky, like, like, I'd rather just stay here. Like, they're increasing my rent, it's like 5% extra, but, I can't find a place for that extra 5% that's gonna equal this. Maybe they're 80% as good, or 70% as good. So I can save 5% to get 70% as good, like, I'll just stay here. And it's the same in the rehab. I'd rather spend this much. I'd rather be what? Penny wise and dollar smart, or penny, what is it? Dollar smart and penny foolish than the other way around. Some people like to pinch the pennies and they're losing dollars. You know, I'll spend the pennies. I'll spend quarters if it's making me dollars,
Right.
or I get that dollar value at the very
Well,
least.
why not do the best, appliances and finishes when you're planning to hold it?
Yeah.
If no one's gonna pay you the rent in accordance to how much you actually put into it. But I'm saying, why not do the best for the least the best cost and hold it for as long as possible? Never, I plan to hold when I get my properties until I retire. Which I'm assuming you're in a similar situation as
Until
well.
I die.
Yeah.
That's it. Like infinite until I die. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, because I've, previous family, fix and flips and all that in this neighborhood, right? And those were sold off, over time. And those are all worth tons now. So it's like we missed out on like so much cash flow and like value appreciation over time.
Yeah.
That it's literally a detriment to the family in it even. So that's one of the other reasons why I'm not going to sell them long term, but
Yeah, people are very quick to feel the pain if they lose the money, like actually lose it, right?
yeah.
But you also have to think about opportunity cost. Yeah, maybe they bought some people bought a place back in the day for 200 grand and sold it for 400 grand.
400, and it's like,
Whoa, I doubled my money. Yeah, but maybe it's 1.5 today.
but learning that now is where we're at now, like that, how high could prices go for homes when we're, 20, 30 years from now? Like the bungalow in Portage Park that's worth like 400 or 500K, right? That could be worth $1 million in 20 years, right?
Probably more.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, right? Like they got that show, like $1 Million Listing, and I was like, in Chicago, that doesn't exist. That's like the top, like Lincoln Park, like beautiful mansion, blah blah blah. Now, like $1 million home is pretty common. Even $1 million condos.
That's not even. Yeah, I mean it's expensive. Yeah, it's a lot of money every month.
But it's not like the top. Like,
but that's a common thing now. Like that's not even a high price for real estate. The average price in Chicago is probably, would you say, like 400,000 or 500,000?
Around there, yeah.
Because mainly the areas in certain areas, like $1 million area or like a couple $100,000 area evens out, right? But
you'll see even in, I guess, not expensive areas, right? There can be an expensive property.
yeah,
And there's like random ones throughout the city. Have you seen like the Batman house?
yeah.
Like that's just random, I forgot, like some random like South Side area, but you're talking about like $1 million plus property. And it's just, there's so many hidden places like that. Like look at even on North Avenue, some places look like a warehouse on the outside and it's just like a beautiful home on the inside. The city just blows your mind with the hidden gems that are out there.
But it's definitely the best market, at least in the state. But some think that it's the best market for like 2 to 4 units in the U.S., which probably, I mean, because you think about New York, that's not really that many 2 to 4 units. That's mainly like multi-unit buildings. And then L.A. is mainly like houses or single families. So yeah, this is basically like an investor market, like the number one in the U.S. probably.
I like when you said LA. Over there, they call like what we would call a 2-flat. They call that a duplex. But over here, we would call a duplex like a 2-floor condo, like duplex down or duplex up.
Yeah.
I remember when I went over there, I was like, "What are you all talking about?"
It's just different
like
terminology.
How's that a duplex? That's not a condo.
I went to Boston, right? Like that area is old, right? Those are old houses and stuff that have been around since like 16 or 1700, and they're just like wooden houses that stuff happened over time, and the values over there are really expensive. I think Boston's more expensive than New York even. The average prices,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't.
And New York's like twice as expensive as Chicago.
I mean, that's like area to area, right? Like which borough or which neighborhood in Boston, but yeah, no, Boston's definitely got some expensive places too, for sure.
I agree.
But yeah, in terms of like, I get what you're saying. Like the typical 2 to 4 flat, like if someone wanted to be like an owner investor, like live in the property and rent out the other 2-3 units. I just went to an event a couple days ago, and it was a couple that's what they did. You know, like she was like, I thought I would just buy a condo for my first property, but he was like, no, let's get a multifamily, and then got her on board. And for me, that's if I
the
was
right way to go.
if I was gonna live in Chicago, any type of long term, like even at least 5 years, all day.
That's the right
all
way to go in
day.
the city for sure.
Because you're paying your mortgage down and all that, and like being a landlord, if you're not, yes, it's an additional inconvenience and all that, but it's not that hard if you think things through and do it the right way. You know, if you treat your tenants right, if you screen your tenants in the beginning instead of putting anyone in there, and then make the improvements that we kind of touched on earlier to make it
For
so
sure.
that the tenants aren't having problems all day,
Yeah.
all day. Some people, I had one guy, he rented from a building I managed. I think we were having a conversation, bigger pockets, like you're familiar with that, right? So I was like, hey man, like instead of re-upping your lease, why don't you just buy a place? And sure enough, I think he had made some money in Bitcoin. He did well on that, and he had a nice down payment. He was like, okay, cool. Got him a place. It was a 2-flat actually, but I think it was a 3-flat before. They made the first floor in the basement like a huge unit, like 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. And he kept the upstairs rental. And I was like, raise the rent. He was like, no, they're good, they're nice. I was like, raise the rent. Like, even if, that's another thing too. Even if people are nice and all that, like market rent or like slightly below, but not way below, like then you're gonna be hurting. But basically this 5-bedroom apartment, he lived in one of the bedrooms, like really nice, huge bedroom, bathroom enclosed, like 2 closets. So it was almost like he had a roommate before. Like this was just way better than what he had before. The other 4 bedrooms, he rented them out for like $600-700. He was cash flowing from day one. So like living for free and making, I mean, it was probably like $100 or $200 after all the expenses, but
Either way,
instead of just paying,
you're making money.
$1,500 to $2,000 to a landlord.
Someone's paying your mortgage and you're making money and the value's going up.
Yeah.
Why would you buy something that you're just liable to pay that monthly payment every month, rather than have someone pay it, all that.
Yeah.